Hi, and welcome back to Mallory in the Library. Today we have a few more stories to celebrate Black History Month because we didn't get to finish all the stories that I wanted to share last week about space and science and technology. And so we're going to share a few more today, and we're going to start with this story called Ron's Big Mission. It's by Rose Blue and Corinne J. Nader, and it's illustrated by Dawn Tate. And this one is also about a library, so that will be really fun to see. And so it says, "To Autumn and Jairus, I believe in you, baby girls. Accomplish your missions." And it says, "Thanks to the Lake City Library, a branch of the Florence County Library System, Lance B. Linton, a photographer who went over and beyond the call of duty to get access to the original library to provide me with visual reference." Which means like pictures that they can use to draw their story. Okay. "You're up early this morning, Ron. What's the rush?" asked Mrs. McNair. "Come and have your breakfast. I made some oatmeal." "I have to go, Mama," said Ron, tying his sneakers. "I have something to do this morning." "You always have something to do," said his mother with a smile. "Just be home by lunchtime, okay?" Ron was 9 years old. That morning he left his house with a plan. He'd been thinking about it for a long time. It was a beautiful South Carolina summer day, and Ron looked up at the blue, blue sky. Someday, he thought, he would be up there, flying a plane. He wanted to be a pilot when he grew up. But today, Ron had something else on his mind. Something very important. Ron walked down the street as fast as he could. He didn't want to be late. "Hi, Ron," the grocer called from the front of his store. "There you are, just in time for a donut." "Good morning, Mr. Douglas," said Ron. "Thank you, but there's someplace I've got to be." And Ron kept walking. Must be a very important place that he has to get to if he's saying no to a donut. Down by the schoolyard, Ron saw his friend Carl shooting baskets. "All right, you made it," called Carl. "Hi, Carl," said Ron. "I wish I could stay, but I've got something important to do." "More important than basketball on summer vacation?" said Carl. "Are you kidding?" Ron laughed. He loved to play basketball, but not today. Today was too important, and Ron kept walking. When Ron got to the Lake City Public Library, he stopped. This was it. He was hot from walking so fast, and he was nervous too. He took a deep breath, lifted his head high, and went inside. Mrs. Scott was busy getting ready for all the people who would be using the library today. As the head librarian, she had to make sure that everything was neat and orderly. Mrs. Scott looked up to welcome her first visitor of the day. She smiled as Ron walked in. He was her best customer. Ron gave a little wave to Mrs. Scott, and he went right to the shelves. It took Ron a while to find some books. He always looked for books that showed children who looked like him. But that was hard. There were not many books about black kids on the shelves. At last, Ron found some books on airplanes. He took the books and started to walk to the front desk. Ron felt nervous and his hands felt a little sweaty, but he knew what he wanted to do. Mrs. Fielding, a white lady who was often in the library, stopped him. "You can give me the books, and I'll check them out for you, Ron," she said gently. "No, thanks, Mrs. Fielding," Ron said. "I'm going to do it all by myself," said Ron. "But Ron," she started to say. Ron was already on his way to the front desk. He put the books on the counter. "I'd like to check these out, please," said Ron. The desk clerk didn't look at him. Didn't she hear me? Ron wondered. Ron knew what he had to do. He jumped up on the counter. He wanted the desk clerk to know he was serious. "I'd like to check out these books," he said quietly. At first, the desk clerk and Mrs. Scott just looked at each other. "You know you can't check out books, Ron," said Mrs. Scott. "You can read them here." That's the rule. Only white people can check out books from the library." Ron looked at Mrs. Scott and the desk clerk politely, but he would not budge. "I always read them here. Today I want to check them out," said Ron. Mrs. Scott and the desk clerk did not know what to do. Ron wouldn't get off the counter. People were staring, and finally, the desk clerk called the Lake City police. Two policemen came right over. "Let someone check out the books for you, son," said one of the policemen. "You know the rules." But Ron just shook his head, and he would not budge. Now Mrs. Scott called Ron's mother. Mrs. McNair came to the library very quickly. "I know how you feel, baby," she said, "but you have to follow the rules." "I can't, Mama," Ron told her. "It's wrong. The rules are not fair. Why can't I check out books like everyone else?" No one said anything. Not the desk clerk, not Mrs. Scott, not the policeman, not even Ron's mother. Mrs. Scott looked at Ron. She thought about all the times that Ron came into the library and all the times he sat at the tables for hours looking over so many books. He was her best customer, and she knew what she had to do. Mrs. Scott walked back into her office and started writing. Ron wondered what she was doing. You can see he's still up on the table here. Mrs. Scott returned and handed Ron a library card. His library card. Ron looked at Mrs. Scott and smiled. As he jumped to the floor, he thought he saw her smile too. "I'd like to check out these books, please," he said, handing the card to the desk clerk. The desk clerk took his library card and stamped the cards in the back of the books. "These are due back in 2 weeks," she said. Ron smiled. "Thank you," he said. He tucked the books under his arm and took his mother's hand. Together they walked home. Ron couldn't wait to get to his room. And open page 1. And so, in the back, you can see that there's a real person back here, a picture of a real person, and I'll read you what it says. It says, "The boy who was Ron McNair grew into a man who flew planes just like he dreamed he would do. He became an astronaut. Today, everyone in Lake City remembers him. They remember him every time they walk into the library. The red brick building on 234 Main Street is a special place. The walls in the children's room were painted with pictures that show children reading books under a huge oak tree, and a space shuttle flies through the sky. Inside the library, anyone can get a card and check out books. Young Ron McNair had a dream. On that day in 1959, he made it start to come true. Because of him, many young people have a chance to dream. You can only be a winner if you are willing to walk over the edge," Astronaut McNair once told a group of children. "You are eagles. Spread your wings and fly to the sky." Many years ago, in Lake City, South Carolina, young Ron McNair became a hero. Years later, in 1986, Astronaut McNair once again became a hero. He lost his life when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded on January 28th with the loss of the entire crew. The Lake City Public Library is dedicated to Astronaut McNair. This story is a fictionalized account of a real incident in Ron McNair's life. There are several versions of this story. This version comes from interviews with Ron's mother, the late Mrs. McNair, and Gloria Wilson, administrative assistant to the Director of Library Systems in Florence County, South Carolina, and Gloria Tisdale of the Lake City School District. We thank them for their help in reconstructing this inspirational story. Except for Mrs. McNair and Ron, all the character names are fictional. So I think this story is so important because it shows us that if you are willing to learn and fight for what's right, you can achieve any dream that you have. Okay. Our next book is called Look Up With Me. This book is by Neil deGrasse Tyson, A Life Among the Stars. Look Up With Me, Neil deGrasse Tyson, A Life Among the Stars, and it's written by Jennifer Byrne, and the illustrations are by Lorraine Nam. And you may have heard this name before. This man, Neil deGrasse Tyson, has many television shows and instructional programs. I think they're mostly for adults, but there are some for kids. So it says, to our ancient ancestor, the first animal who ever looked up and wondered, and to my Oma and Appa who inspire me to keep looking up. Okay. On an autumn afternoon in 1958, in the city of New York, on the third planet out from the sun, in the Milky Way galaxy, a little baby boy was born. Neil deGrasse Tyson opened his eyes, and there it was, the universe, just waiting to be discovered. At first, Neil's world was small. His building blocks and little books, his yo-yos and gyroscopes. During the days, Neil went to school, to the park, and to museums. At night, he looked out the window of his apartment building and saw other buildings, streets, and streetlights, and, here and there, small bits of sky, until, One day, Neil went to New York City's famous Hayden Planetarium. As he sat beneath the high arc of the theater, out went the lights, and shazam! Wowza! Neil's mind was launched into outer space. In a single instant, his world expanded 100 times, 1,000 times, even more. Projected onto the huge dome above his head was the night sky with countless thousands of stars. A gigantic, spectacular, beautiful cosmos Neil never knew existed. And in that moment, his life was changed forever. Sorry. Sometimes it's tricky to get comfortable. Neil started reading everything he could about planets, moons, and stars. He wondered where comets came from, what made galaxies spin, and how big is outer space. He learned the word astrophysicist. Big word. The kind of scientist who studies all those things, the kind of scientist he wanted to be one day. Neil pasted glow-in-the-dark stars all over his ceiling in the shape of the constellations. At night, with the lights out, it felt as though his bed were floating in the huge magnificence of space. After exploring the skies with binoculars and a small telescope, Neil was determined to get a bigger, more powerful telescope to bring the heavens even closer to his eyes, and he figured out just how to do it. With dogs! For 2 entire years after school, Neil walked neighborhood dogs. Big ones, small ones, fluffy ones, scruffy ones, at 50 cents a walk. He worked hard, and he finally got his telescope. Night after night, Neil carried his heavy telescope up to the roof of his building. Nervous neighbors called the police to report a tall burglar with a dangerous weapon. When the officers arrived, Neil explained it was a telescope and showed them the beauty of his favorite planet, Saturn, magnified 100 times, its golden glow, its icy rings, and many moons. So, although they arrived with fear and suspicion, they left with awe and wonder. Because of his passion for astronomy, Neil won a scholarship for a voyage across the Atlantic Ocean to view a total solar eclipse. Surrounded by stargazers, researchers, and scientists, Neil was beginning to find his people and his future. Then, at only 15, Neil was invited to give his first astronomy lecture. He was paid $50, which equaled about 100 dog walks, and made him realize he could actually make a living by talking about the universe that he loved so much. In college and graduate school, Neil's mind traveled farther than it ever had before, flying into outer space with runaway stars, diving into the cores of black holes, and leaping from galaxy to galaxy. And when Neil wasn't being his cosmic self, he enjoyed being his dancing self, his wrestling self, his picture-taking self, and most of all, his laughing self. When Neil graduated, he made sharing the wonders of the cosmos his world as a teacher, a researcher, and a writer. He wrote a magazine column in the made-up character of Merlin, a 5-billion-year-old visitor from the Andromeda Galaxy who answered people's questions about astronomy and the cosmos. Then, Neil got what just might be the coolest job on Earth. He became the director of the Hayden Planetarium, in the very place that expanded Neil's world so many years before. It became his turn to expand ours. Today, in his dazzling sky shows, Neil takes us to the edges of the universe, inside the center of stars, and back to the beginning of time. Not only does Neil bring us the stars in the sky, but through books and tours, TV and radio shows, he has become a star himself, right here on Earth. A superstar of science, shining his bright light on the secrets of the universe. You can see maybe in the background where his show is called Cosmos. Neil believes everyone should have their mind blown at least once a day, and he does his best to make sure that happens. Here there's all kinds of facts. If Earth didn't have an atmosphere to scatter the sunlight, the daytime sky would be black as night. Outer space is completely silent because there's no air there. So there's all kinds of facts that we can learn. The wonders of the universe are always with Neil, day and night. At the beach, Neil thinks about the 8 minutes and 20 seconds that sunbeams take, traveling through space at the speed of light to land on his nose and toes and to warm his earthly body. When Neil sees stars through his window at night, he thinks about how their light took thousands of years to get here, and that there are newborn stars whose light won't get to Earth for 1,000 or more years into the future. Invisible stars, for now. Then he closes his eyes and goes to sleep in his beloved cosmos. As much as Neil loves the amazing facts of the universe, he is also fascinated by the mysteries and the unknowns, the just beginning to be knowns and the barely knowns. The mysterious pull of invisible dark matter, the push of dark energy expanding our universe ever larger and ever faster. And wormholes, the faster-than-light passageways through space and through time. All the mind-blowing secrets that will be explored by the next generation of scientists, and the next, perhaps, by you. One simple wish Neil has for the future is that all of us, every person on Earth, go outside at night and look up, look up, look up, at the moon, stars, and planets, and think about the fact that we are made of the very same stuff they are, of the stardust atoms of long ago exploded stars, and that we're all part of the very same thing, this amazing, beautiful, spectacular, mind-blowing universe that is our home, that is our world, that is us. And I really like this book. We'll look at this picture again, I think. Lovely. Tonight might not be it's starting to get kind of clear. Might be a little cold to look outside, but if you do, that would be fun too. Okay, the last story we're going to share today is a fun story called Boxatex. It's by Kim Smith, and I'm excited to share this with you. Meg was a boxatect. She loved to make things out of boxes. She loved making tiny houses, tall towers, and twisty tunnels, and she made marvelous things that no one had ever seen before. Meg was proud of her work. She could make boxes into anything. Meg's mother was proud too. She thought Meg was brilliant and creative. So Meg's mother sent Meg to maker school, where she could be even more brilliant and creative. At maker school, there were blanketeers, spaghetti techs, tin foilers, and egg cartoniers. There was almost every kind of maker you could imagine. But Meg was the class's first boxatect, and that made her feel special. At school, Meg learned all about boxatecture. She learned how to make her structures useful, strong, and beautiful. Meg loved everything about maker school. Until Simone showed up. Like Meg, Simone was new. She was also brilliant and creative. And worst of all, Simone was a boxatect too. She was already making things that Meg had never dreamed of. In class, Simone would point out ways Meg could make her constructions a little straighter, more wind-resistant, and less boring. So, Meg told Simone that she should build things that were less bumpy, sturdier, and much prettier. On the last day of school, the class's annual maker match was held to see who could make the most amazing thing. There was just one rule. You had to work as a team. But Meg didn't want to work with anyone, and neither did Simone. The blanketeers built with blankets and pillows. The spaghetti techs built with pasta and glue. The bakeologists built with cake and frosting. But the boxatects were not building at all. They were arguing. I want to make a tree house, Meg said. No, I want to make a ship, Simone insisted. Meg drew a line down the middle of a very large box. I'll take this half, you can have the other. Fine, said Simone. Soon, Meg noticed that her treehouse wasn't as large as Simone's ship, so she made her side taller and more impressive. When Simone noticed that Meg's treehouse was taller than her ship, she made her side higher and more extraordinary. Slowly, Meg and Simone's creation grew bigger and bigger. They both built and built until there wasn't a single box left. And at last, they finished. What is it? Asked a classmate. I've never seen anything like it, said another. The teacher said, it looks like it might. Uh-oh. Achoo! Oh no. Crash! Oh no, what will they do? Your side was too wobbly, shouted Meg. Your side was too heavy, cried Simone. Oh dear, said the judge. The maker match was not over yet, but most of Meg and Simone's work was ruined. There were only a few parts left that could be saved. If we combine my treehouse with your ship, Meg started, we might be able to make one thing, finished Simone. The box attacks decided to call a truce so they could finish the match. Working as a team, Meg and Simone quickly joined the remaining pieces together until they had created something new. At the end of the maker match, the box attacks hadn't won first place, but they had a different way of making brilliant and creative things by working together. And they each gained a new friend. What should we make next? How about a buoyant bungalow? Or a motorcycle mansion? It looks like they made a very cool houseboat. Oh, and then, why is cardboard so extraordinary? So it shows you how cardboard is made, and you can learn how to make a box-attached tunnel. And this might be better to ask a parent if you have some boxes or things that you want to play with to make something new. So it says, to all makers, constructors, creators, and inventors, and a special thanks to the wonderful book of texts who make this book possible, Kelly, Jennifer, Charismar, and Suzanne. So I think that it's always fun to be creative and to learn new ways of making things like the girls in the story, and especially to work together to have some great ideas. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you liked our stories. Next week, we're probably going to talk about pets and animals and read some just fun and silly stories about our favorite pets together. So until next time, I hope that you have a great week and stay warm and safe. Goodbye.